Thank you all for coming. I'm Diane Robbins, the director at the Bartholomew County Historical Society. If you've never been there, we're just right over here. We have some really cool window decorations right now. So if you go by an old house with window decorations, that's us. And if you haven't been there, come see us. We have permanent exhibits in the museum. We have exhibits that change quarterly or 2 or 3 times a year, and we'll be doing our Christmas trees through time the month of December again, which is always a really fun time to come. It's very festive. So anyway, though, tonight we're here to welcome Zack and Bob and hear a little bit about POWMIA of Bartholomew County. And I do have Devin, one of our employees, put together some information about a couple POW experiences that he had some information on. So we gathered that. We'll have those on the back table. If anybody wants to take a look at these, if you would want information on these, we can email it to you. So anyways, we've got history like that. If you ever need to do research, just please let us know. We'd love to have you visit. With that, I'll turn it over to these wonderful gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Diane. And if we would, as we get started, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. As I get started here tonight, I want to thank you people, and first and foremost, Diane for her nice welcome, and also for coordinating these events. There have been several that have been held down here in the Henryville Hall. It's a beautiful facility. If you've never been in here, it was built entirely for this piano. And it's a concert hall, so they have events in here, concerts. It'll hold around 85 or 90 people, and it's a beautiful venue. It's one that was donated by the Haddad family, and we really appreciate them allowing us to use this facility. And I want to thank you guys for coming. Big thanks goes to Bob Miller, my cohort, because he is the one, he's the one that has really helped the POWMIA get some traction here in Columbus and Bartholomew County. And it's easy for many in the public to forget that we still have a whole lot of people still over there. And I'll show you a map in a little bit, and it'll show how many have either been are missing in action, never to be found, or some of them are found, and we got a story on that. But it really, there are a bunch of them, and we'll talk about those as we get to it. These events wouldn't be possible without and the Veterans Memorial wouldn't be possible without help from the county commissioners. We've got 3 of them, just like every county, but Carl Lena, Larry Kleinhans, and Tony London. And they're the ones that help us on the county side. Now, Mayor Jim Lena helps us on the city side. And it really, it requires their help and support to keep these programs running, especially when we use their property in most cases for presentations and concerts and other events. We appreciate everybody being here, but with a show of hands, how many veterans do we have in the audience? Because I had better raise mine too. But anyway, that is great. How many know or have had family members of veterans? Okay, that just about takes in everybody right there. How many here have possibly had a POW, prisoner of war, or missing in action of a relative or someone that was close to you? Okay, several hands. I tell you, that's really touching to know. As Bob told me, we need to know who our audience is, and it's pretty telling number there. We I think most of you picked up President the outline of this evening's events, and a lot of these are going to be personal stories about people connected to Bartholomew County or connected to members, residents of Bartholomew County. So we're going to talk a little bit in the beginning about the POWMIA flag, and many of you have seen this. I know the Rolling Thunder has patches that they wear, and it has this very flag. This was adopted, I believe it was about 1972, and they designed it. And as you're looking at it, it has quite a bit of meaning. It's stark black and white. It's got a prisoner of war here, the profile, a gun tower right next to him, a guard tower. You got the barbed wire and POWMIA, and then you have the slogan, which is not a slogan, it's a mission. You are not forgotten. And that's the intent of this session tonight, is to be sure we don't forget. And so that's the POWMIA flag, and it's one of the few, if only, flag that flies over national capitals and buildings that is not a flag of a nation or a state. And then you go on a little bit, and this is the one flying right beside the United States flag. And so if you see that in the distance, that's exactly what it is. It's so we don't forget POWs and MIAs. This is the design that I talked about. Just cover that one more time. A silhouette, barbed wire, POW, MIA, missing in action, you're not forgotten. That's quite important to us. There is a POWMIA recognition day that's on the third Friday in September. And that's when we have on the courthouse property, we are working on a POWMIA plaza where we'll have those events held at some point in the future. We're still working on a design that meets the approval of everybody that you have to meet the approval of to get it done. But it is to raise awareness and let people know that that they're not forgotten. Families, it's especially important to families. And we're going to talk a little bit about a family, actually 3 families that have come here as speakers on POWMIA Recognition Day. And but before we do that, I want to move to this. You see in front of you it's a POWMIA. It's called a place setting for one. A table for all. And as you look at this, there's a story that goes along with each element of this. And the table is set for one. It is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against his oppressors. The table itself is round to show that our concern for them is never ending. So you can see that, and the white tablecloth is draped over the table, representing purity of their response to our country's call to arms. The empty chair depicts the unknown face, representing no specific soldier, sailor, airman, or marine, but all who are not here with us. The Bible represents the faith of a higher power and pledged our country founded as one nation under God. The black napkin stands for the emptiness that these warriors have left in the hearts of their families and friends. The single red rose reminds us of their families and loved ones, of their families and loved ones. The red ribbon represents the love of our country, which inspired them to answer the nation's call. The candle and its yellow ribbon, symbolizing everlasting hope for a joyous reunion with those yet unaccounted for. There's a slice of lemon there, which is it's on a bread plate, and it reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt upon the bread plate represents the tears of their families. The wine glass turned upside down reminds us that our distinguished comrades cannot be with us to drink a toast or to join in the festivities of the evening. Remember until the day they come home. So you'll see this table in American Legions and VFW halls around the country, and that's what it all stands for. Bob's added one more item on the table, and that's a Purple Heart for those who were wounded but not captured, or if they were captured, it'd be a POW, but it's for the people who were wounded. I know we have one person with a Purple Heart here, a couple of them, Fred Armstrong, and he got his in Vietnam. I think you got two, didn't you, Fred? Just one? That's enough. So we're our hearts with you on that, and Kathy, of course. Okay, this is a map I was talking to you about. The Defense POWMIA accounting agency located out in Hawaii keeps track of where all of the POWs and MIAs are from, and these are, I think these numbers are these the POW MIAs?
It's the ones that are still missing.
Still missing. Okay, these are the numbers that are still missing. You might look at North America and see 2061, but in World War II, we had 5 different attacks on America. So that's where that came from. We have it down in South America. We have it in Europe. We have the big number, the color coding on here. The blue is for World War II. And you can see a number in China and other places. We have Vietnam, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and the Gulf Wars. So it's a real worldwide deal. And in Korea, we're still finding remains from the Korean War. That's a pretty impressive total, and it's something that we will work hard not to forget. Bartholomew County, there are still 55 people that were prisoners of war or missing in action veterans that we have records of. And that lists a name that comes off the program from the POW-MIA Recognition Service, and that gives the names and the conflict or war that they were missing from or imprisoned from. And then down there at the bottom, I think this is always a good idea. It's "You are not forgotten." It's not a slogan, it's a mission. And it's a mission to everybody in here, or you wouldn't be here. So thank you. Okay, we're going to get a little bit into Gus, and then we have a short video on Gus and some of his accomplishments over time. And you want to talk about it, Bob?
Sure. Good. It's all right if I stay down, right?
You got to eat that mic.
Okay, eat the mic, all right. I did do a little bit of background. Gus, I met Gus in 2015. He was a volunteer at the Air Museum. And I didn't, I knew that he was a POW, but he was in there just as one of the volunteers, and somebody said something about Gus, and I looked over and it's like, "Is that Gus Bob?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "Oh my." So I went over and shook his hand. Anyway, it was really neat that I got to meet somebody that went through the stuff he went through. A little bit of what I learned about him. I was only a friend of his for a short time. He passed away in 18. But he was talking a little bit about life is pretty when you're free. And that's something that he would say over and over again. And you would think that somebody like him would be kind of bitter maybe and resent what happened to him. No. He was the most positive guy I ever met. Anyway, he almost died numerous times while he was prisoner. And there's an angel, a miniature of the angel that he drew. He came to, what happened was when he retired, he started to paint because he wanted people to remember what happened. But he had mentioned a couple of times that he thought that he was going to die. He really felt like he was laying there. Hear a voice. Not ready for you. Amazing guy, and he loves Starbucks coffee. And I have to wonder if that emblem, the logo for Starbucks, has anything to do with his love of Starbucks. I'm just curious. I'll never get to ask him to find out, but it was his favorite coffee. We're going to have a short video on him where he can say things in his own words, and it's written underneath so you can understand it too, so it helps. Is there more you want me to say?
I'm going to add a little bit more to it. He's got the stuff. Bob's really worked hard on this over the years and worked directly with Gus. I knew Gus at veterans events and things like that, but I wasn't as closely linked to Gus as Bob has been over the years. And we actually have had Gus's daughter, Midge, actually give a talk at the POW and talk about her experience, POWMIA recognition service about 4 years ago. And it was very moving. But he was a member of the Dutch Army. And he was captured. He was in motor transport. He was captured by the Japanese, and he landed in Thailand. And he's one of the prisoners of war who built the bridge over the River Kwai. So, and there were so many of them that died, and it has been, he said he kept keeping his eye on this angel, and that's part of that painting back at the back. And the angel was watching over him, and he survived it. But we know how difficult this is for the prisoner of war, but also the family, our families. And they don't, so it's a two-way street, and people that are not ever found or returned, it's especially hard on the families. Gus was one that was able to come back, and he really made a difference in people. He moved to Columbus in, I think, 65. I think I'll do that. 65, and he became a citizen in 87. But during 65 to 87, he worked at Cummins Engine Company, as it was called then, building engines and doing work around the engine works here in Columbus. And when he retired from Cummins, he went to the museum and worked there as a volunteer. He painted, and you'll see in this video, he painted a lot of stuff. And beautiful pictures. He came here with the help of First Christian Church as his sponsor. And so it took somebody to sponsor somebody to come in. But it was an amazing way that he came to this community, and all that he added to this community. It was really special. And he died in 2016, I believe. 2018, okay. Okay, this is another one. We'll get on to the other ones here in just a minute, but I'm going to play this video for us, and it's really worthwhile. It's about 20 minutes long.
I think you can hear me without the mic. I just wanted to add one more thing.
Gus painted all these paintings, memories he had. There was a big warehouse at the museum, and they would put all his paintings in there. And when somebody would come and talk to the people, they'd go, okay, you want a painting? And they would give away paintings. He never sold one painting.
Gus Potoff is a survivor from hell. Hell of man's making in a place far away, in a war long ago.
Thank you, Lord. The friends left behind here, I will remember you all my lifetime.
Gus is also a man given deliverance by heavenly angels. In exchange, he promised to tell others about it, lest we forget.
Lest we forget is sort of a mantra for him. He lives it every single day. That's his reason for being alive.
He just wants people to realize about the war, about what people have paid for freedom.
What my dad went through was beyond bad. It was just, it was horrific.
Decades later, Gus Potoff found the way to tell the tale, an unexpected and most beautiful way. And this is his story.
Lest We Forget is made possible by the generous support of the Walter and Elizabeth Nugent Foundation, the Lynn M. McGuire family, Dennis and Francis McCarty, Atterbury Bacalar Air Museum, Incorporated, the Indiana Air Force Association, and Aerospace Education Foundation, Incorporated. Additional support was made possible through numerous donations, big and small, from members of the Columbus, Indiana community who embraced the idea of this story being told.
Columbus, Indiana is a quiet mid-American town known for its architecture, built by city leaders who wanted to create a place where people would want to live and work. On this quiet residential street is a house not found on any architectural tour guide. Yet it's out of the ordinary, lush, colorful, full of life. It reminds one of Indonesia.
We better live in the jungle. Get the birds and the animals and the elephant.
This is the home of Gus Potoff, a Dutch immigrant who came to Indiana in the 60s to work and rear his family.
They knew it wasn't going to be easy. They had to have. They came here with $150.
The whole world went open for us. So we didn't mind the little struggles.
They brought with them hopes for a bright future.
I'm one of those that if God give me lemons, I will make lemonade and pie.
And they carried with them a past largely unfamiliar to most.
He's part of history. He's part of history that a lot of people don't know about.
Gus Potoff is a World War II veteran of the Dutch Army, stationed in Indonesia. He is one of the few surviving prisoners of war there, forced by Japanese captors to build the camps, the bridges, and the infamous Burma-Thailand Railroad.
Lots of memories here, Gus.
The hell for this.
This is the stuff that you brought back on from your many trips.
After the 50th anniversary of World War II, Columbus veterans opened this museum on the Atterbury Bacalar Air Base as a way to honor veterans.
This every cross is a camp. The dead camp.
These housed workers all the way
down to there.
Do you have any idea there was an end to it all?
Now, I never know what is coming. This we have to dig it.
From harsh, disease-ridden jungles of Burma to the Kwai Bridge in Thailand, Gus managed to survive 4 years in hellish captivity.
If anybody badmouth Gus, you got to take on his whole museum. he's part of this museum. He's a fixture in this museum.
We don't want that history to die off. We don't want the accomplishments of people like Gus to disappear forever.
Gus Patoff was born in Indonesia. Ironically, his father was a German soldier held prisoner by the Dutch in World War I. When his father died, Gus's mother couldn't care for him and his sister, and they were sent to an orphanage.
And the last time I see her in the hospital, she looked out the window there.
Gus was 17 years old when he joined the Dutch army. Not 6 weeks later, he was captured by the Japanese and herded onto one of the cruel prison ships to Burma, stacked together with 2,500 other POWs.
We are so hungry and we're so weak. We can't walk most. My people are so sick from the trip with the boat. We're just getting so mad. But what you can do when you get mad.
And thus his story begins. But how to tell it? How to make others understand?
Thank you, my Lord, my Spirit.
How best to make sure history does not repeat?
It's difficult to understand him. His paintings were his way of talking about it.
It wasn't until he retired from Cummins did Gus begin to put his story down in living color.
I promised to do it, yeah. But I don't know how to paint, but come out of the Spirit, you know how to paint, you get a bruise, you know.
When I see those paintings, it's survival that I see. I see survival, I see determination.
Sometimes he paints the torturous camps.
I like to paint the sunset because we always come back home to the camp after work. Sometimes you don't have time to clean you up, you just sleep because next day, early in the morning, 4 o'clock, he has to wake up and start to work again.
Sometimes his brush remembers the Burmese jungles, dark and wrought with starvation, disease, and death.
The Japanese would overrule the physicians.
He has to do what he will. He can lay down there when the Japanese stand up and see where he can walk.
Worked them to death.
Yes, they will.
You can tell if a person lost their faith, they wouldn't survive very long, would
no,
they?
You never give it up, then you are dead, and the next day you are.
The Thai landscapes are brighter. Here, locals slipped food to starving prisoners, and when there was nothing left to trade or eat,
I don't know what to put it in there, but you have trash. And the rest you go to the jungle and see what you can eat.
The men watched monkeys and what they ate. And if the monkeys survived, that's what they ate.
he paints the ever-watchful eye of the Japanese soldiers and hired Korean guards who savagely beat exhausted prisoners with bamboo clubs.
You got a bamboo on my head. And the bamboo split. It's a big bamboo split on my head. God, I say, what are you going to do? And I don't feel nothing.
Gus helped build dozens of camps, worked on the deadly railroad deemed impossible to build by the British, but not impossible for the Japanese, blind to the human cost.
And here, in the bottom, is the amputation table with bamboo table. Everybody has to wait on a line for amputation.
The railroad stretched from Bangkok to Rangoon. It enabled the Japanese occupation of Burma. It was deadly, dangerous work. The men were forced to carry heavy teak timbers down steep slopes, across rocky grades. Many fell to their deaths. In all, nearly 200,000 died building it.
Dad's had malaria, beriberi, dysentery, cholera. There was one time that he was very, very sick. And he said that he went to the gates of death and that he heard a voice.
The whispering son to me. I sleep and say, go to the kitchen, get hot pepper and rice. Yeah, I crawl to the kitchen. I cannot more walk. I'm too skinny, too weak. I swallow all the rice and hot pepper. In the morning, I wake up and I ran away from the place.
Many times, Gus was saved by God's mercy and the voices of angels.
Every time when I'm sick, during the time from begin, I say, I give it up. No, it's not ready for you.
The same spirits that saved him in the jungle guide his painting today.
And that painting, that is the spirit of the bridge.
Ghostly images of the dead are brushed deliberately into the jungle landscapes, into the trestles of the bridges over the Kwai River.
At night time, the spirit walk over the bridge, and the people in Thailand don't want to go walking over the bridge.
Actually, I could feel it. For some reason, it almost brought tears in my eyes because I could actually feel those souls. And that's the way his artwork is.
I like how visceral they are. I like that he paints straight out of the tube. He rarely mixes his colors. He seizes the day, and his painting is like that too.
Author Susan Brackney is so inspired, she collects his paintings and even wrote about Gus in one of her books.
The Spookies make him paint. He just is a conduit for them. How neat is that? That's very neat.
My father has got a very, very strong relationship with his higher power, his spirits, and he believes in that. My father believes in good and bad spirits.
Over the years, Gus and his family have made several trips back to Thailand, where Gus often tried to find the remains of an Australian friend he was forced to bury hastily in the jungle.
The graves were not even 2 feet deep because, the Japanese they weren't there. It wasn't a ceremony, This wasn't a ceremony. It's like, let's dig, let's get it done, get back to work.
In all the years, remember him all the time. It's a wish I can get them out there.
He feels like the Australian man speaks to him from beyond the grave.
My dad may not have been able to contact or find or locate the family members, but my dad has done something on behalf of that fallen soldier by painting these pictures.
In 2002, Gus, Adele, and Bridget returned again. He walks slowly through the streets of Bangkok, his legs and feet forever scarred by painful jungle ulcers.
I have to slow down for my leg.
He is surprisingly at peace here, despite long bus and boat rides on his journey to Kanchanaburi, home of the cemeteries where over 8,000 of the dead prisoners are buried.
I felt proud. There were people there from all over the world, but I was proud that my father is part of this.
Across from the cemetery, Gus visits the Thailand-Burma Railway Museum.
Many people know about the Death Railway, but not so many people know about prisoners of war being sent everywhere else to work. Gus is one of the Dutch prisoners of war, sent up from Java to work on the railway.
At curator Rod Beatty's request, Gus has brought paintings to help tell the tale.
It's important for Gus. It's important for us, it's important for people.
It's another bus ride to what is known here as Hellfire Pass, where POWs were forced to hand-dig the path for the railway.
The reason it was called Hellfire Pass is because at night, the Japanese would light these huge fires to allow the prisoners of war to work.
Gus walks carefully, deliberately down the steep cliff.
It was like hell, the fires that just lit up the night sky, and these men working close to death in little than a loincloth, barefoot or whatever they could wrap around their feet to be able to walk. I could understand why it was called Hellfire Pass. It was hell.
At the base of Hellfire Pass grows a tree, Mother Nature's way of trumping the injustice which occurred here.
Thank you, Spirit, for the sweet song you gave me. I'll be back soon, when the Lord let me do. I will remember you all my lifetime.
At times I looked around and I looked up at the trees and those huge rocks and think, if these could just all talk. They bore witness to what was going on.
I say, not goodbye. I say always, good luck for the future. We met you again. I'm here, Bridget, with you in Thailand and in jungle.
Back in Kanchanaburi flows the famous Kwai River.
I'm here in Thailand.
The setting for the movie Bridge Over the River Kwai.
He hates that movie.
In Bridge River Kwai, he said the English make it. No, the Japanese tell you what to do. You cannot tell the Japanese my way, not your way. When you don't want to do it, he kill you. He always his way.
He thinks it's just very inaccurate, and you know, the whistling alone maddens him. We weren't allowed to whistle. We weren't allowed to sing. We weren't allowed to speak. What are they whistling about?
Gus worked to pour the bridge's concrete footings.
I put all the stone bags there around for the concrete, you know. And the water is thrown away with the bucket, bamboo bucket out of that hole to get the concrete in there. That is the last work what I do.
Here, poor nutrition finally caught up with him.
3 months he has to build it, day and night. But I'm so sick, night blind, I cannot probably send me on the overside of the camp there. That is a hospital camp. He fed you so good.
The Kwai Hospital offered better food and medicine which helped Gus recover his sight. Today, he still sees beauty in the landscapes.
Even though he went through this horrendous experience, he saw beauty. There was beauty. Excuse me. And I teared up and I thought, you know, all this that he went through and was going through, and he painted, he still saw beauty in it.
Gus is back in his studio, the small room off the back of his home. He paints under the watchful eye belonging to the angel in the portrait nearby, who saved his life on a dreaded night so long ago.
You see the eye there? He speaking to you. 3 times I changed the face, you know. I said, no, not you. And this time I get the face on the third time, you say, oh, you are the one, they always hear me.
At night, he sees her eyes watching. She guides his sponge, his brush. His painting may in fact be divinely inspired.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi Gus, how are you?
Good to see you
Nice
again.
to see you again too.
Come in.
Yeah, it's not as nice a day as last time.
That's right.
Art Farnsley is a professor of religious studies at Indiana University.
Yeah, I see angels in it.
Yeah.
So, what made you think of that, to paint that one?
Because I remember the angels always get me help, protect me.
Right.
He is also a collector of what the traditional art world calls visionary folk art.
The cultural value of visionary art is that it still represents a level of authentic, unfiltered spiritual experience that my sense is an awful lot of people wish they had.
Gus's paintings fall into the genre of better-known folk artists, such as Howard Finster.
What makes Gus's work visionary is that the memories he's painting aren't of a happy childhood. It's not like he's glossing over changes in the world that maybe he likes less. He is remembering a time which surely was the most difficult time in his life and would be in any of ours. He also paints to keep the memory alive of his fellow POWs. I mean, you have to think that for so many people in that greatest generation, they feel that slipping away. So for him, it's almost a double whammy. He's got the spirits who watched over him, the very specific spirit of his deceased mother, but also other spirits who kept him alive and helped him while he was working on the railroad and while he was building the bridge. He wants people to know that that reality happened to him, but then he also wants people to remember he and his comrades and the sacrifices they made there, and so he paints.
Gus cannot seem to stop himself from painting, and he always gives his paintings away to all who come and hear his stories about the railroad.
It's a little difficult to imagine that he's churning them out faster to try to satisfy some sort of demand, because he mostly does it, you want to say to suit himself, but he does it to keep alive this memory.
I thank you to have that with you.
I have no idea if Gus's paintings will ever be financially valuable, but you couldn't get mine.
That's the first painting?
Yeah. The first painting.
That's significant because
that is a freedom camp.
That's the first taste of freedom you had was from this camp.
This was Gus Potoff's last stop before freedom. It was a day he will never forget.
August 17. And we waiting for the guard to bring us to the work. They say something strange going on. You know, there's a bomb, or you don't know what kind of bomb. Overpowered the freedom. Some can stand the tea of freedom and don't believe it.
While other prisoners shipped out for home within days, Gus stayed in the Dutch army, which was involved in the Indonesian Revolution. 9 years later, he went to the Netherlands to work with NATO before immigrating to the United States. Here in Columbus, now in his 80s, he still does daily calisthenics. He has a brown belt in karate, mows the grass and grows, what else but hot peppers.
Life is there, pretty when you are free.
And at night, he's back at the canvas.
It's art right there. It's beauteous.
No one get to leave.
That little room of my dad's, that is his studio, that I don't think a claustrophobic could survive in. He is surrounded by pictures of his family, his sister, my mother, my brother and I when we were young.
You know the Hellfire Pass?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
I imagine him as just, walking back there and going into meditation and saying a prayer, and then it happens. I think it's very personal to him. But once he starts, he wants to share it. He'll be more than happy to share it with you.
And I hope he keeps painting. I hope that he keeps reminding us of the danger we can bring to one another. He's a survivor. In fact, he is the most haunted survivor I've ever known. I don't know that I ever will meet another one like him.
And that's what most people say about him.
This year I was in Thailand. I said, down by the graveyard, a Korean come over. He shake my hand. Forgive me. Lord said, always forgive him, but not forget it. It's for the generation to come.
His is a forgiving heart, but hope for the future relies on not forgetting.
He doesn't want anybody to forget. Not just what happened to my father, but, what happened to this world.
Lest we forget, how could anyone who has heard the stories?
Well, that is all the memories I bring here home. Lovely memories for my friends.
And that is a promise kept.
Oh, Bob, I love you.
Lest We Forget is made possible by the generous support of the Walter and Elizabeth Nugent Foundation, the Lynn M. McGuire family, Dennis and Frances McCarty, Atterbury Bacalar Air Museum, Incorporated, the Indiana Air Force Association, and Aerospace Education Foundation, Incorporated. Additional support was made possible through numerous donations, big and small, from members of the Columbus, Indiana community who embraced the idea of this story being told.
Every prisoner of war who had similar stories. I think we saw two of them yesterday that got out and talked about how poorly they're treated. No different. It's the way they beat you down, and they could care less if you made it or not. So Gus to survive over 4 years is pretty amazing. All of the other his other comrades have made it is very amazing. This next fellow here that I'm going to talk about, this is one that's still missing. Charles Dennis Shauna. He was a PFC in the Marine Corps, and like everybody, he went over to Vietnam in '67, crashed in a CH-46 helicopter, and 11 people were killed in that fight. It was right up next to the DMZ, the Demilitarized Zone, and he's remains missing today. We have a stone marker on the POWMIA Plaza in his honor. But he's one of the missing that never did come back, and the family is still waiting. He was a graduate of Columbus High School in '65. This is another missing in action that actually was identified. The Korean, North Korea turned over 55 remains of soldiers, and in that box of remains, they found dog tags. And so McDaniel, Master Sergeant McDaniel, they found his dog tags, and then they matched up the mitochondrial DNA to identify him. So this is one that after all the years, in 2018, they identified him and gave closure to the family. Okay, this is one where we had his son give a talk about this, how special it was about the 55 boxes and actually a single identification dog tag, and how special that was to the family to finally get closure on where their father, that he was actually found. This is one from this man right here joined the Army when he was 16 years old. He had to lie to get in because he had to be, I think, 17 or 18 to get in. But anyway, he lied his way into the service, fought all the way through World War I, and then he got out, and then he started working for the government in a civilian job. And in World War II, he worked in the Philippines, in a supply house in the Philippines. And he was captured, and when they captured him, they naturally put him in prison and did the same thing to him that they did to Gus. And he was in the jungles of the Philippines. And Frank Buckles, then he was released at the end of the war. And then he went ahead and worked he worked and lived his life, and he lived to be 110 years old. But he was, most of his life, he was a civilian. And he's met with 7 presidents over the years, and they actually buried his body after he passed away. They buried his body in Arlington. So he's one of the few non-service people to ever be buried in Arlington Cemetery with full military honors. This is one right here, and Bob, you might want to tell a little bit about this if you want to.
Yeah.
All right, keep that mic close. I understand that.
Yeah, this was my uncle I never met. He went MIA in 50. I was born in 47. And actually, I was adopted. And I discovered something interesting when my aunt had passed away. There was a letter that was returned for insufficient postage. And in the letter, she talked a little bit about me and talked about how, geez, I wish you'd write me. I hope you're a prisoner. I don't, you know, I wish I could hear you. I hope you're okay. This was dated, let's see, I think 51. So he went missing in November of 50. So she was writing to him for a year and never heard back. And then she got a letter from the Army, a status update in November of 51, saying, well, you know, you're still going to get benefits. He's still considered missing in action, blah, 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 blah. And then it wasn't until December of 53 that they declared that he was dead. So she basically had 4 years or 3 years of not really having any information, but she kept holding out hope. She was an amazing lady. She actually got me my first job. I just never met. I never met him. But yeah, this is the letter that talked a little bit about. It was very, you know, just, I don't know if you can read it or not, but it basically just said, well, we're not changing the status right now. So it is what it is, you know. And we don't know anything. We're just still trying to figure it out. But, you know, basically, it's kind of that's how I got it anyway. But yeah, it took her all that time to get closure for him. And I tried to find out more information because he was a dedicated airman in the Second World War. And what happened was he fought in World War II. And in the Navy, and he got all kinds of, you know, the Distinguished Flying Cross, and he had the Air Medal with 10 stars next to it. So he was, you know, he went through a lot then. But then when he came back, I guess he wasn't really that excited about civilian life, and then he wound up going into the Army, and then he re-upped in June, and then in November he was missing. So it's kind of, I felt bad for my aunt, but anyway. That's kind of it with him, and I never really knew much about him. And I tried to get the records, and the records are just like, no, we don't have anything for you. So I still have absolutely no idea what his service record was in the Navy.
So that's a personal story of what that means. We have other stories, very interesting stories. One is Bill Stahl's first cousin. He's here tonight, and his first cousin flew F-105s over to Vietnam, and he was bombing a bridge up just west of Hanoi when he was shot down, and he was captured outside of Hanoi and served as a POW for 5 years. And he was on one of the first flights out of Hanoi after the end of the war, and he flew back. And if anybody, probably nobody here is old enough to remember except for Bill, but he landed at Clark Air Force Base, and he's the one that came, one of the first ones that came off the 141 to freedom in the Philippines, and his name was Thomas Norris, and just an amazing story. He went on and served. He had more ribbons on his chest. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of ribbons that he had, 2 silver stars, distinguished flying crosses. I mean, just a super guy. And he spent 5 years in pure hell, as John McCain or anybody else. We've heard stories about the Hanoi Hilton. So it was, that's one that's close to Columbus. It's connected with Bill Stahl's family. There's another fellow, you don't hear too much about him. Now he never got shot down, but as we think about the freedom flights coming out of Hanoi, after the prisoners were freed, there were about 560 of them in the first day, and that were released, and they got on three 141s and flew back to Clark Air Force Base. If anybody has ever done business with Thompson Furniture here in town, Vic Thompson was one of the pilots of one of those 141s that flew back. So he wasn't a prisoner and wasn't missing in action, but he is a big part of getting these prisoners and people back to their families. So I always remember that when I'm in there shopping. And so that's a couple that are close to home, a couple stories. So now let's move. We're going to change gears. We're going to talk a little bit about the prisoner of war missing in action safety plaza here in Columbus. And that's right as you enter the city, you come across the 2nd Street Bridge, and you drive in between it. And you might see some flags, and you might see the Robert Garton Plaza for veterans on the right side. You see a sculpture. If you look at the right place here, if you look right here, that's the bronze sculpture of Crack the Whip that used to be by the Arvin building. And anyway, so this is the POWMIA Plaza, but it fell in kind of got overgrown and things like that. And people come, when they drive in, they're driving right down through there. The only thing they're looking at is the courthouse, the coal apartments, and that red light right there at the end of it. So they don't see it. But this plaza was the cause of that big cause was Tommy Greenlee. I don't know if you guys know Tommy or not, but he was a big part of pressing Mayor Fred Armstrong at the time into getting something for POWs and MIAs. And he kept pressing, and Fred, you know the story, because he bothered you every week, and we finally got it. It took a while though, but we got it, and it was hard work with Tommy Greenlee and Fred to get that pulled off, and that's right downtown. This is a better picture of the POWMIA portion of the plaza. And you can see Crack the Whip on the right, the bronze sculpture. And then, well, there's a little bit of it. But, and Fred actually mentions your name in there. You know that, don't you? But anyway, that's the people behind it. And we have that. We want to rework it to make it a little more visible so people can see it. There's a POWMIA prayer that's on a tombstone there, and his father, your own son, was a prisoner, condemned. He died for us, victorious. He returned to bring us the gift of life everlasting. Comfort us now in our longing for the return of the prisoners of war and those missing in action, lest we forget. These are the different branches of the service now. We'll wrap this up in just a couple minutes. The different branches of the service, we have a new branch, as you see down on the bottom right side. That's the Space Force. And so that's in there. Most everybody is associated with the military, so I hardly have to tell you what they do. But we have the Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Navy, and Space Force. This is a good picture of, if you wanted to take a look at that, it's pretty amazing. Granted, 58,318 people in chronological order on the Vietnam Memorial wall and sculpture. And you start in the middle and it goes out both directions. But, you know, when you hear the number 58,318, it's just a number. But when you see them on the granite, it's amazing. And then over on the right, we have the three soldiers sculpture. There was a lot of controversy with the architect that made the wall, Maya Ying Lin. She grew up in America, but the fact that she had an Asian name, people were up in arms about this whole deal. So that they contracted with Frederick Hart to make the bronze sculpture on the right, which is a lot more traditional, but not quite as special as Men's. Okay, I think that works us through to the end. Anybody have a special memory they'd like to share tonight? Let me bring you the microphone so I can hear you.
I'm actually full-time Army. I retired in March after 26 years. And I've been lucky to see that table presented in military formals in a beautiful fashion with dressed-up soldiers with great silver helmets, and you can see, of course, it points out every aspect of the table, and it's quite moving to see that presented in such a ceremonial way.
Thank you for that, and we try to do the best we can with this, and I tell you, it's a lot of people behind this effort, and we will keep on working until we get them all home. I think we're all in agreement on that. Any other comments or things?
I forgot to mention, you pointed out the fact there's a Purple Heart. That was my uncle's Purple Heart.
That was your uncle's Purple Heart from Korea?
So he did get, you got the Purple Heart for not coming home.
I guess, never found. Any other comments before we wrap up? Well, I tell you, I appreciate everybody coming out here tonight. I didn't know if I'd have two, because I knew that Glenn was going to be here, and I was going to be here, or three, and Bob was going to be here. But we had a good turnout tonight. It's a special event. It's a good time to remember the people who have served for us. So anyway, thanks for coming out tonight, and we appreciate it.
A memory I have, which I don't tell, says my age, I guess, was a POW and MIA bracelet.
Oh, yes.
In the 70s when we were in high school or something like that. We all have them, and that's something like I wish I still had that. It was like you look into that person, and I don't remember the name or anything about it, but that was a really big deal that we all, had.
We did. I remember that.
Yeah. I don't know. I wish we had one in our collection. I don't know if we do or not, but it'd be kind of cool to have. So someday I'll dig in the basement and go find it. But thank you all for serving too. I think those of us that never served, my dad was in the Korean War, but.
Diane, I might have an extra one. I submitted one for Thomas Morris. He sent me something else.
Okay.
And I went back to him again and said, oh, I want Thomas Morris. So they sent me that one, and they told me to keep the other one. So I'll see if I can find that. If I find it, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I just think it'd be kind of cool to have that with the other military things that we have, even though they're not Bartholomew County. It's just kind of tells the story of what was happening, you know, during the Vietnam War.
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
When you're done.
Oh, that's okay, yeah.
No, it brought to mind, I've got business cards up there, but it's not because I have a business, but there's a Facebook page that I've been maintaining, and it's tied to the accounting agency in Hawaii. So if they come up with something and they find closure on, you know, for a family, I put it on the Facebook page, but I also put our local events in there. But it was interesting, I got a question from somebody saying, I've got this bracelet, and she named who was on the bracelet. And she says, I never knew what happened to him. I sent her a reply within a day by going through the DBA. And so she had closure, and the gentleman's remains were found. But anyway, it was pretty remarkable what they do, what kind of work that they do there. It's incredible. Thanks.
All right, thanks to everybody. Any other closing comments?
Obviously, I'm not a veteran, but I want to thank these gentlemen for the program they put on. I work with the Columbus Children's Choir that we found in this room on Monday nights, but Bob reached out to us about 3 years ago. I've watched them draw these children in because they come and sing, and I've seen children go over and look through the books, and they're fascinated, and I thank you for keeping that alive and drawing in this new generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
I invite everybody to attend in September. It's worth your time.
Third Friday, by the way, if I didn't mention that. Third Friday in September. All right, thank you very much. And the Historic Society is amazing. I know in '95, when we just started the drawings and the design of the Veterans Memorial on the courthouse property, that you guys did you recorded stories from a number of 95ers, they called them the veterans in 1995. And they got all sorts of stories. I think it went in the archives over there. But it's really interesting. Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm Mike Clark, president of Rolling Thunder NAS Chapter 1. And one thing I wanted to mention is, you know, our main mission is to bring awareness to the public about our POWs and MIAs, and also to help our veterans whenever we can. One thing that we have, you guys may or may not know about, is a POWMIA license plate that you can get through DMV. This license plate serves two purposes. Number one, brings awareness to the public about POWs and MIAs, which we have over 4,000 of these on the streets of Indiana right now. Also, when you purchase that plate, $25 goes into the Indiana Military Family Relief Fund. And so far, this plate has generated over $1,400,000 that has went to help our Indiana veterans in need. So next time you go to the B&B, anybody can buy this. It's open to the public. And next time you go to B&B, you get one of these plates that help us with bringing awareness to the public about our POWs and MIAs.
Great idea. Thank you. All right, anybody else?
I got one more thing.
Well, you got to be quick, Bob. You're on the stage. You're supposed to already have it out.
I don't, there's a stand-down event. I don't know if people are familiar with it, but they're doing a stand-down at the Honor Center. And what the intent is to provide resources for veterans that are struggling. They'll have a barber there. They'll have different agencies with information. Different agencies that can help veterans that are struggling. So it's a really good program, and basically it's to help the guys that need help. And there's a ton of resources. Everybody puts their heads together and they do this. So it's going to be November 1st at Honor Center. So if you know anybody, I've got some flyers if you want to take something with you. And if you know somebody that might be able to use one, anyway, I wanted to get that out before everybody left.
Thank you, Bob. And with that, we're closing up shop tonight. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much.